The June 4th Pinellas County Board of Adjustment and Appeals hearing. We've received this case in advance, we've studied it, and in some cases we visited the site. Please understand, we do not bring these cases. We are citizens tasked with the weighing the evidence submitted in order to make the most informed decision possible. We have no personal interest or stake in the case except for the overall good of the community. Staff has made a recommendation on this case, and that recommendation is input only, not necessarily the opinion of this board. If you're planning to speak for or against on this application, you must be sworn in prior to testifying. If you've not been sworn in, please do so now with the clerk here at the front of the room. This is how we'll proceed. When the case is called, the applicant will come forward to this podium in front of me and give us your name and your address, and then present your case, including comments from any supporters in attendance. Comments by supporters should be new information, not just rehashing what has already been said by the applicant. If there is a volume of support, it could be displayed by a show of hands. Speakers will have 3 minutes. Opponents will then be given an opportunity to state their objection. If there are numerous opponents and you wish to select one or two spokespersons, that would be preferable. Speakers will have 3 minutes. Subsequent objectors should add new information, not just rehash the prior stated objections. Opponents may also display the volume of objectors by a show of hands. This will be the only opportunity for opponents to state their case. So if you're here to oppose this case, you got one shot, and that is after the applicant makes his case, you can then come forward and state your opposition. But after that period is closed, you will not have another opportunity to speak. The applicant does, however, have the opportunity to come back and rebut the comments of the opponents, but may not bring any new information at that time. Then we will close the hearing and we will discuss the case, make a motion, and take a vote. The county attorney will now provide additional information on our procedures.
Good morning, Maria White, Assistant County Attorney. The matters heard by the Board of Adjustment and Appeals are quasi-judicial in nature. Please note that only competent, substantial, fact-based testimony or evidence may be considered by the board in deciding the matters before it. Pure speculation or opinion not based on competent facts cannot be legally considered by the board. Lay testimony with fact-based support, including but not limited to meeting minutes, surveys, engineering reports, may be considered competent and substantial evidence. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, Molly, would you like to call the first case?
Yes. Good morning, members of the board. Molly Cord, Principal Planner on behalf of Pinellas County Building and Development Review Services. This is case number TY2-25-03. The applicant is JRFF LLC. This is a request for a Type 2 use to allow for a 13-unit multifamily development in a C1 zone for the property located at 7789 131st Street North in unincorporated Seminole. Staff is recommending conditional approval. The subject property consists of 0.66 acres along the south side of Park Boulevard. The site is developed with a 7,296 square foot, one-story former daycare center that was constructed in 1981. Based on my understanding of the site, it was originally combined with the western property, which consists of two structures, one being the previous daycare center and the other a professional office building, both located on a single site that included a shared parking area. The subject property is within a commercial node that's centered along the intersection of Park Boulevard and 131st Street North. Park Boulevard is a 4-lane divided arterial roadway, and 131st Street North is considered a minor collector road. The adjacent and nearby uses include a restaurant to the north, a medical office to the east, a general office building to the west, and a private school to the south. The subject property has a low flood risk and is not within the coastal high hazard area or coastal storm area. The applicant intends to retrofit the existing building into a 13-unit multifamily development, which would include a combination of 1 and 2 bedroom units. The property is currently zoned C1 neighborhood commercial, which allows for limited commercial development and retail-like uses. A Type 2 use is required for a multifamily development within this zoning district category. The subject property has a future land use map designation of commercial general, which is established by the Pinellas County Comprehensive Plan. It is the purpose of the commercial general category to depict the areas of the county that are now developed or appropriate to be developed in a manner that is designed to provide the community with commercial goods and services, office, retail, and residential uses, with the category's objective of encouraging a mix of uses. The commercial general future land use map category also allows a density of 24 residential units per acre at 0.66 acres. This would allow a maximum of 16 residential units on the property, which would be subject to site plan review and permitting. The proposed 13-unit multifamily development will comply with all minimum development standards and parking requirements. Regarding the existing improvements on site, the property features an existing 20-foot wide ingress-egress easement designated for access purposes. Off-street parking is available on this site, as the concept plan before you depicts adequate spaces to provide, to support the intended development of 13 multifamily units. Traffic impacts are likely to be minimal, and drainage considerations will be assessed during the site plan review process. There are no additional buildings that will be constructed for the proposed project, apart from the exterior improvements that would occur to update the existing structure. The applicant has submitted preliminary architectural drawings for the proposed project, which includes the layout of the units, subject to, again, site plan review and permitting. And approval should be subject to the recommended conditions as outlined in the staff report.
Thank you. Mr. Warner, did you have?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I am familiar with the participants involved, and I think that it would be best if I not vote in this, because I don't want any conflicts of interest.
Mr. Warner is recusing himself from this case. That leaves 5 voting board members. However, a majority of the 6 would be required. Am I correct? So we would need 4 votes for a motion to prevail. Am I correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, so is everybody clear on that? There's 5 of us will be voting, but you're going to need a 4 of the 5 for a motion to prevail, because we do have 6 people here, notwithstanding the fact that Mr. Warner has recused himself from participating in the case. Will the applicant please come forward? Please give us your name and address and tell us what it is you're trying to do here.
My name is Jordan Hidalgo. I reside at 213 Garden Circle, Bel Air, Florida. I'm here on behalf of JRFF LLC with its address of 801 West Bay Drive, Suite 454, Largo, Florida 33770. My business partner Rick is out there, and we are looking to put 13 units into this property. And I think Molly did an excellent job describing what we're looking to do and why we believe it's fit.
Can you enlighten us a little bit as to the use of there is mention in the application that the housing units would be transient housing. Is that fair to say, or short term?
Yes. So to kind of not convolute it, the end goal is for these to end up as Airbnbs. But I understand you guys have put some new codes in place. So in order to pursue doing these as Airbnbs, we need to first get it approved and built as a multifamily, and then go in for an additional process to clear them for Airbnbs relating to parking and some other things that'll be needed.
If you'll
there.
stand in the middle of that table, there's 2 mics and they picks
They will
it
here,
up
okay,
better, yeah,
okay.
from the middle.
So this, in my understanding, not that this is a formality in the sense of a checkbox, but we need to achieve a multifamily housing to move into Airbnb, because it is looking to be a 13-unit property.
So this would be, so to speak, retail to the public. Anybody
These should
could rent
be,
these.
we want these to be nice, short-term rentals, vacation stay, with the being right behind Jodo's and the big shopping center across the street, being a mile from the beach, being that it has plenty of parking, it's set off the main road. It's got good space to put a pool in and kind of some amenities, and even some golf carts that'll be able to run into the beach. We think it's a great location, great use of the building, And I believe it fits all of the criteria needed to move through the process and achieve that.
Is it intended that there would be one unit that would be, quote, manager unit or permanent resident unit in there?
So, the short answer is no, that's not the intent. I believe when we were looking at this initially, you guys had, which is probably part of your code clarifications over the last few months, I would imagine, because I believe that was an approach if this was going to be proceed as a bed and breakfast, which I believe was one of your other categories that this might have been able to slide through a little bit smoother. And by listing that as the one long-term, we could qualify under the bed and breakfast and do that. I like to do things up front and outright and make sure that I'm going to do everything the way that it's going to end up and not have any issues there. So that is not the intent at the moment. I believe that was discussed when we were going to pursue it as a bed and breakfast classification. But I believe after looking at it, we determined we can get to where we want to get to through your existing comp plan and have them as short-term rentals.
Molly, help me out here.
Sure.
So the role of the board this morning is to approve the type 2 use, which would allow for a multifamily in this zoning district.
Correct.
Beyond that, to achieve the requirements for a
Short-term rental.
short-term rental, that would not be the
Administrative.
domain of this board.
No.
That's administrative.
Correct.
So whatever requirements there are would happen at an administrative level.
Through site plan review and permitting. So if there was issues with parking requirements, if there, it would get assessed during that time, so.
Okay. Questions from the board?
I don't. I had the same question is next steps, to focus on what the task that we have at hand without getting ahead of the next steps.
Yeah.
So thank you, Molly, for
course.
clarifying that. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, in actuality, what we're approving is just the ability for a multifamily to occur within this zoning district, which is permitted by code as a type 2 use, or what we used to call special exception use. So but it requires this board's approval. Anything further use beyond that, whether it's Airbnb, bed and breakfast, short-term rental stays of whatever kind, happens outside of this domain at the administrative level.
Yes, and I will add that a bed and breakfast establishment is a permissible use within the C1 zoning district. So to Mr. Hidalgo's point, there is a requirement for a manager to reside on the property, but it is a permissible use within the C1 zoning district. A bed and breakfast does not require type 2 use approval, so.
Do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I believe you guys have a great understanding of what we're looking to do here.
All right, well, let's hear from the objectors. Who's up first? Do you have a spokesperson, or you're just going to wing it? Come on, just come on up. Race to the desk.
Good morning. I'm Jody Whitcomb. I am president of our family business, which is Jodo Inc., better known as Jodo's Pizza, as was mentioned. This is my father, Fred Zinda. He has been in the business over 50 years and has owned the property on the north side of this property for 40 years. So we have a very a big interest in this because we are not comfortable supporting this change. First and foremost, we do not believe that there is a valid easement to access the water line that is on our property. In talking to, in researching some of the materials and in talking to some of the colleagues that we have in the community, we don't know that there is a valid easement in effect. So that is a concern to us on how they would be accessing our 1.5-inch water line. One of the documents they did provide was the water plumbing plan, and sadly, they have the water coming in from the south side, but the water line is actually on the north side, so it seems like there's an error there. But they want to put in a 2-inch water line. So our understanding too is that they would not be allowed to upsize or relocate our current water line to meet those needs, knowing that there is not a valid easement in effect. So the higher density too that we are concerned with the number of units and the potential for 56 occupants, obviously going from the 1.5 inch to the 2 inch is something that seems to be needed, but it would not be allowed in our understanding. So we're just a little bit confused about that. In speaking with the fire marshal too, there would probably be a need to sprinkler the building. And right now the fire hydrant is on our property and we are not aware that there is an easement to access that fire hydrant as well. There does not seem to be anything in existence to access it, but when speaking with the fire marshal, he said that they would need to be brought up to modern day standards with the installation of an above ground 6-inch fire line backflow device. We would like to know where that would be located because our understanding is it's a pretty big device. So we would like to know where that plans to be located because it would not be able to be located on our property. We are very reluctant to grant these easements too, because we do believe this is so premature and all of the work that would need to be done. I can't have my back property torn up for weeks. That back property has access for my employee parking, customer parking. Practically all of our vendors use that back area to bring all of our product in through the back door. So if there's going to be a lot of construction, that is a very, very big concern for us on how we would be able to carry on our business. There was also a concept site plan that was provided in the documents that we received as well, and they've indicated a dumpster area. Well, that dumpster area is on my property or on Mike's property, so I don't know how that was implied that they would automatically be able to put a dumpster there. So that was another concern to us on how the plans were just possibly thrown together. In speaking to the transient nature of these rentals, we are concerned with the sexual predator registry, and we do understand that there are certain registry protocols in effect for the county, but I think against our better judgment, if you were to approve this, we would demand that the condition would exist that the sexual predators be banned outright from renting from this facility. We employ high school students. We have a family-based clientele, so we just feel that it needs to be more than what the county would require in the registry. We feel it should be banned, that conditions should have them banned completely. And also, too, we are curious on some of how this would work is that if, against our better judgment, if you were to approve this change of land use to the type 2, would it have an expiration date? Because there's a lot of things in our mind that need to be worked out. So if it couldn't get worked out and if it just didn't come to fruition, would it go back to commercial zoning? So those kind of questions are things that we would just be curious about if there would be an expiration to this.
If this board approved the type 2 use and the facility was not developed, I believe that type 2 use would expire in 1 year? Is that
2
correct?
years.
2 years, so
2 years,
they have
okay.
2 years to develop it,
Thank you.
otherwise it goes away.
Thank you. So again, just in wrapping up some of the points that we brought up, we just believe this application needs to be denied without prejudice. We believe that it's premature in nature. There seem to be a lot of legal issues with the lack of easement and the identity of the easements that would be necessary to carry out this project. And it seems in looking at some of the plans, there were just certain errors that it was hastily drawn up. And I don't know if that's true, but with the water line being on one area, and we had a survey done in 2020 that shows different placements of the hydrant and of different lines. So again, we just think that with the premature nature, the plans being a little bit in error in our mind, we do not believe this change of land use is appropriate at this time. So we would like, we would hope you would deny it without prejudice.
Thank you. I will just remind you and others that the technical aspects as to utilities and easements are not part of our discussion, but will be handled administratively. If the type 2 use were approved at this board level, the applicant would then need to get site plan approval at the county level, which would then engage in all of the various utility requirements, placements of dumpsters, backflow detectors, et cetera. So that would all happen administratively, but thank you for the
Thank you,
information.
thank you.
My name is Vivian Lurie. I live at 12600 86th Avenue in Seminole. Here's the history of this building. It was built as the model for the Three Palms Point condominium complex on St. Pete Beach, showing the 4 floor plans available. It was constructed to be a temporary building to be either moved or destroyed when no longer needed. When there were no offers to purchase, it was given to my husband and me in 1975. We then had it cut into 4 parcels, barged from St. Pete Beach to the mainland side of Madeira Beach, where it was trucked up 113th Street and put back together on piling supports where it stands today. Someone told my husband it couldn't be done, so he did it. The porches were reconstructed. All the electrical, plumbing, and AC had to be redone. And by the way, the building in question was put together in 1975. It's the office building in the front that was built in 1981. Although public records show this building as concrete block and stucco, it is actually frame and stucco. I ran my child care center business there for nearly 20 years, and I cannot imagine squeezing 13 livable units in it with all the extra bathrooms, let alone creating a parking nightmare for the surrounding businesses. This is no place for a tiny short-term rental property. As the adjacent business owner, I am vehemently opposed to this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
No, the units are range in size, but mostly are under 400 square feet, which is, a small unit, but you have to think of it more like a hotel room than an apartment, so,
Will there be kitchens?
There is, the floor plan shows that there would be, and it would be required. Molly, am I correct? So,
Brian, do you
kitchen
Can you show her a
requirements?
copy of the floor plan, please? Thank you.
It's a kitchen, dining, family room combined area, but there are appliances shown.
Yes, that is correct.
Hard to imagine.
And Mr. Chair, if I could interject, I guess the timer hasn't been going. If we could also start that too when they come up to the front.
Okay, is that something you want me to do?
I don't know who necessarily controls that. It was just mentioned.
Okay,
Thank you.
so noted. Thank you.
I got you, 3 minutes.
I thought it was communications.
Not cutting people.
Gotcha.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
My name is Mike Lurie. My father was the original owner and developer of the property in question, and my family still owns the parcel immediately to the west. We are opposed to the change of land use. One of our tenants in the adjacent building is a children's dance studio. There are school-aged children, including my youngest daughter, coming and going from our building every weekday afternoon and Saturday morning. I am very concerned about sexual predators living in transient housing directly behind us. If the BOAA does approve the change of land use, registered sex offenders should be banned outright as a condition of the approval. We also object to the proposed density. Trying to cram 13 units with up to 56 humans into a building that is less than 7,300 square feet is at best unrealistic. The load that would be put on the sewer line that runs directly below our adjacent building greatly concerns me. The developer will most likely have to expand or relocate their sewer service and will have to cross my property to do so. There is no recorded sewer easement, and I am not likely to grant one with the site plan as is. How do they propose to connect to the public sewer system? The developer site plan shows the existing connection to the 4-inch sewer main on the south side of their building If their architect had done his homework and really understood the building, he would realize that the sewer main is actually located at the center of the building and runs due west to a manhole just to the east of my building. The sewer line then continues underneath the center of my building to the public sewer system at 131st Street North. Also, we're nowhere on the site plan does it account for a dumpster. If it did, the dumpster would most likely be located at the south end of the property at the cost of at least one parking space. Without that space, is there enough parking for 56 people? I do like to know who my neighbors are, which was not easy in this case because the ownership of the property is buried beneath several layers of LLCs and trusts. However, I was able to find the name Jordan Hidalgo. Is this the same Jordan Hidalgo that is currently being prosecuted for contractor fraud by our state's attorney, Bruce Bartlett, and settled a $1.9 million judgment with the state of Florida for $60,000 because he didn't have the money to pay in full? If so, this leads to another set of questions that is beyond the scope of today's hearing. If despite our objections, the BOAA does approve this change of land use, does it come with an expiration date? With all of the issues Jody and I have highlighted, and the question of Mr. Hidalgo's pending trial, the worst possible outcome would be for this board to approve the change of land use only to have to unwind the decision in 12 months because this project cannot actually be built. This hearing is premature. The BOAA should deny this application without prejudice and allow the petitioner to come back after they have sorted out all of their legal issues and the problems with their site plan. And I do have a copy of the site plan showing the sewer main in the wrong place, and I have a copy of the judgment from the state of Florida if the board's interested.
Thank you. Any questions?
The sewer line issue is also administrative.
Yeah.
Sewer line issue would be addressed at.
Site plan and permitting.
Yep.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yes, sir.
Hey, how y'all doing? I'm Alan Jernigan. I actually have been renting right across. I'm probably gonna be the person who's getting the most impacted of this because my office is on the southeast corner where all the traffic has to come in because it's the one way. So every car that goes by, I hear it in my office. So anyway, for as far as the tenants go, I know all the tenants that work there. Usually we have about 2 or 3 in each building. So we know everybody. So our thing is, putting 13 units over there, it's like when we saw that, it's like, there's no way that's going to be, you're going to fit that in there. Again, 8 years, 17 days I've been there working. And then now I just learned he wants to put a swimming pool in. Well, that swimming pool is going to be, the only place to put it is right outside of my office. Could you imagine trying to run a company, a small business, and having a kid's swimming pool or playing right out in front of you? For us, I'd ask you to please deny this because, again, all the businesses back there besides the dance studio, we're all small business owners. We like it quiet back there. If I wanted a retail space where people could come see us, I would have gone across the street. But when 8 years ago, I said, hey, Mike, I'm looking for a place where it's quiet so we can get our work done. Because we're a marketing company, and so we need a little bit of quietness. So anyway, that's what I'd ask you to deny it just on that basis. Thank you.
Thank you. Other objectors?
Morning, I'm Barb Kroll. I live at 7626 128th Street. I own estate residential, all estate residential. This was supplied by zoning for me to use. I own estate residential, just 5 acres from this property in question this morning. Until about a week ago, I wasn't even informed of this because I live too many feet away to receive notice. If it wasn't for next door, we would have never known anything about it. We purchased our property in 1985, built our home in 89, so I have a history of 43 years in this neighborhood. At least every 2 years, we're coming back to zoning. I forgot to pull up my records that I have a stack of things from various things that have gone on. I want to point out that this is the property we're talking about this morning. This property is the medical building, which I understand Dr. Clarkson, who owns that building, has sent in correspondence. This right here was just approved, I think it was in mid-2024, for this structure to be built here. This is a structure that will be 1 and 2 bedrooms, for persons with intellectual and behavioral disabilities. It was on 2.79 acres. As surrounding residents of E1, we fought this for, Molly knows, Ryan knows this, for about 2 years this was fought. This is still not finalized as of this morning, the site plan. It's still in the process. But I want to also show you the map of the neighborhood surrounding, since that's what we do. Residential estate, excuse me, all around here, over here. Then everything else around is R1, R2, R3s. Yes, we have a mode kind of surrounding us of businesses. Jody spoke from Jodo's Pizza. They've been there, 40-some years now. Who doesn't go to Jodo's for a pizza? My son still orders probably there once a week. It is a commercial property. It's a buffer. Commercial properties generally have hours of opening and closing. This that they're asking for will have people coming and going constantly into this neighborhood. That's one point. Another point, I'm sorry I'm not prepared. I have another life going on besides this, so I'm
You're
kind of
doing
out
well.
of state. I'm kind of out of it. Okay, these plan units are not consistent with, as I said, our neighborhood around there. Mrs. Laurie talked about how the unit came in a 4-piece thing. How can it structurally hold? I know that's not for you to decide. That will be determined later. Traffic, although it says low bear impact, any traffic around our residencies will be an impact. Don't forget, we live on a corridor right off of Park Boulevard. The bridge is not very far down the road. It's going to impact anything. We have a hurricane, we have evacuation, we've got fire, rescue, all kinds of things happening. That's a busy corridor, and you know that. Barbara Sheen Todd said many years ago, let's make a corridor of residents all the way to the bridge. We're fighting that every couple of years. And I'm going to go to the true owner. He has a consent final judgment against 2 of his pool companies with the Office of the Florida Attorney General. I believe in second, third chances, but how many names did he use for his pool companies? And now he has once again reinvented himself under an LLC. I may not be able to talk about this, but I'm talking about it. He as well recently had to walk away from a huge residence he himself was personally building on the Intercoastal Waterway towards Indian Rocks Beach, again, unincorporated, Pinellas County. Left for surrounding residents to view, unfinished. Did you not read that he took nearly 100 customers? He took their money. It was already stated, about $1.9 million. He only could afford to return $60K. They allowed him to do that. That is what he could afford, and those customers needed to move on, settle, so they could get their holes filled in and move on with their lives. This is not hearsay. This is factual information. You saw those records, I know, because I viewed them in all your correspondence. He seems like a quite aggressive person. It's in his undertakings, all at others' expenses. Is this responsible, or who becomes a responsible party if this becomes incomplete? Timely, he's not, i.e. this morning. Let me mention the 2.79 acres. Again, this is what's going on there, and it's fitting right where this green is. This is old. I used it because I had it in my files. We've collected signatures against this project. The county knows how the residents fought this. Hopefully it goes to a good cause. You have county agencies that must deal with its nearness to the Park Boulevard Bridge, an evacuation route, as I said, fire prevention, hydrants, water sources, general upkeep of the said property. And once again, it's at the expense of all of us who live around it. I oppose this change in terminology and in the site plan. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition to this case? Seeing none, I would invite the applicant to come back if you wish to rebut any of the comments of the objectors.
Okay, so little surprising, was actually expecting support from some local business owners versus the opposition. So I'm kind of processing that as we stand here. Never mind the legally defamatory and untrue statements I heard out of our most recent person here, site being labeled as aggressive. I'm gonna let those go. And I guess I'll just run through these real quick on the opposition points, and then you guys can kind of take it from there. Jodo's is concerned with, easements and water lines and parking and dumpsters, all things that you guys were clear would be addressed as we go through the permitting processes to be normal. I find it odd that they're in that opposition and lean on that parking lot, because going through our processes, I don't know that they actually have access to the illegal parking lot they're using, because based on Pinellas codes, that is an entirely gravel parking lot that is used for parking. Therefore, it's all considered impervious and would have to comply with stormwater. Meanwhile, they have an entirely graveled lot that they're driving through and using for parking to access their buildings from the rear. It doesn't impact me negatively, I'm not concerned with it, but if anybody is out of compliance, that's an existing, non-compliant area being used for parking, and it's fully graveled with no stormwater runoff. So that would be the concern there. Sexual predators, ban them from the country, ban them from the state, ban them from wherever you like. I can understand the concerns of if this were going to be a $50 a night motel style thing, but certainly as a father of three, that's the last thing I want anything to do with. These are going to be $200 to $400 a night Airbnbs, which again isn't what we're here for today, but just in terms of context and the end goal. And you can see based on the plans, we're not going to walk in and spend a couple $1 million building something out to rent it for $60 a night. That's just not who we're looking to have there, and it's a non-concern. Traffic concerns, any of that, as some people up here had said, this was formerly a daycare. I don't know any business, anybody that's ever been in car line from any of these things between daycare and school, the traffic that's in and out of there, and in a rush is much higher than anything you'd see on there, which of course will comply with whatever relative traffic studies as we move this through all the normal process. One person said the dumpsters to the north, other person said the dumpsters to the south. Dumpster's going to go wherever it needs to go on the site plan to get approval. We have almost 3/4 of an acre here, plenty of room to do whatever we want to do. We're way under on ISR, plenty of room to add additional parking or do anything that we see fit in the future, and fully comply. Yeah, somebody's upset with another project going on up the road. I did not object to anybody running over their time. I'm all for people expressing themselves and moving along. And I believe that project as submitted should meet the way you guys want it to go. And I'd be happy to answer any further questions.
Questions from the board?
I have a question. Somebody mentioned about the pool. The pool is going to be on there.
Yeah, that's a ridiculous statement. There's, if you look at the site plan, the building, the parking lot is to the west, and the empty backyard is to the east, opposite of any buildings and in the back of the property. So there'd be no possibility of putting a pool next to somebody's office.
Would it be your intention, though, to have a pool in the back?
I think eventually we'd want to put a pool in for the, uses down the road. And if you look at the plan, this thing has 60 feet or so by 150 or 200 feet across the back of the property.
51 feet, yeah.
Yeah, so plenty of room. Like I said, we want to have nice amenities in there, make this a nice project to patronize the local businesses, even if they don't want it in there, and, intend to build this out the right way as designed, and given the fact that we've already submitted for permitting, shows our willingness to move forward and kind of get this done through all the right channels.
Other questions from the board? Okay, we'll close the hearing at this time and allow the board to discuss this among themselves. You can take a seat and see what the thoughts are here at the board.
The word transient was used quite a bit. That's not an application term or an official term? Is that a perceived term? Is that
In regards to the definition,
of renter or occupant?
I mean, it's, from what I've understood, it refers to a short-term rental. That's how I've understood the definition of it.
Okay, and then I heard something about 54 potential occupants. Is there some limit?
So the Florida Building
Space.
Code would ultimately dictate how many occupants can be in one unit. So,
And that would only be an issue if it was inspected or?
correct. So during the permitting process, the plans examiner would review the unit layout and make that determination as to how many occupants would be allowed in a unit.
It's not really relevant to our discussion, but the floor plans show, for the most part, 11 of the 13 units, one bedroom with a double bed, so to speak, which would mean that 11 of the units could have 2 people, that's 22, and the other 2 units could accommodate probably 4 people. So I don't know where, I think that 56 number is the exaggerated 13 times 4 gets 56, but I don't think it's, real and can't be done. I tend to look at this more as if it were an application for hotel, a 13-unit hotel, because that's the size of the room, so to speak, and it's short-term stay under 30 days. I'm not justifying that. I'm not, still, personally, I think it's more potatoes than will fit in this sack, but for this location. But that's a discussion for this board to have.
I've lived in the area for quite a while in the past, and I drove by the site prior to the meeting, and I kind of look at it as well as, like, the transient hotel occupancy, and just with regarding in the general area of that, the location and everything else like that, it does not, in my opinion, it does not fit into just the the neighborhood compromising the surrounding areas. There's the C1 on this, and the C2 on and the main intersection, and where Jodo's and stuff like that, they're afforded Park Boulevard and 131. But because this is kind of pushed off to the side and back, in my opinion, it does not, it doesn't match with the neighborhood surrounding and the surrounding area as far as a Airbnb or hotel kind of thing in that use.
Anybody else? Pleasure of the board. I cannot make a motion as chair, but I would entertain a motion happily from one of you.
All right, I'll move to approve.
We have a motion by Mr. Holloway to approve the application. Is there a second to that motion? I hear no second. Is there another motion?
A motion to deny without prejudice.
Motion from Mr. Hunsiger to deny the application. Is there a second to that motion?
A second.
We have a second to that motion. Before I take the vote, let me ask the county attorney, does that motion need to have any findings attached to it?
You could feel free to,
This is special, it's type 2. not
yeah,
variance.
I would suggest specificity in your motion, reasons for denial.
Just compatibility or something?
Yeah, so my motion tonight is in the opinion of, it does not meet the compatibility of the neighborhood and surrounding areas and adjacent to the subject property. Although it is inside of a commercial area, it does not lend itself well for transient accommodation.
Is that okay with the seconder?
And I second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Mr. Hunsker with a second from Mr. Bello. Is there any further discussion? We'll take a vote on. Yes.
Oh, I was just going to move to amend transient to short-term rental housing, because transient's not a legal term, whereas short-term rental is. So I think for the legal precedent, it would probably be stronger if you made it short-term rental rather than transient housing.
Sure, I just read transient in one of the,
Okay,
one of the forms from the county, so yeah.
all right. But you're amending your motion? to
Amendment
use-
motion for
Use
for
terminology,
short-term.
short-term, okay with the second? Okay.
I just want to say, to jump in, this is for a multifamily development. So just when you're stating your reasoning, again, I just want to reiterate, this request is for a multifamily development.
Okay.
So, thank you.
So again, I will again motion to deny based on the fact of a multifamily proposed 13 short-term rental unit, multifamily unit, as it does not
Is that compatible?
compatible for the area, the adjacent neighborhoods and surrounding businesses. Second.
And we have a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion to deny, signify aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? One. The motion passes with 4-1 with Mr. Warner recusing. Okay? Thank you. I'm sorry you did not get your request. The hearing is closed. The case is denied, and at this time, I would ask if anybody has read the minutes of the last meeting and wants to give us a motion to approve the minutes of the last
Motion
meeting.
to approve meeting minutes from our previous meeting, which was what?
Sometime. Yeah. We have a motion to approve the minutes of the May meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve passes, and I believe that is it. Is there any other business before the board? For those of you who did not hear, former board member Vince Cox passed away. Saw that the other day in the news. Just wanted to share the sad news with you. But that's it. All right, we're adjourned until next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.